for 20. Less power. And here is your bonus. Barbers in this city were subject to one of the earliest anti-Chinese laws in the Americas for 10 points each. Name is Capital City, whose Chinatown neighborhood, like the rest of the historic center of this city, is built on top of the former city of Tenochtitlan. Yeah, Mexico City is correct. Description acceptable. A later anti-Asian policy in Cuba imprisoned people of Japanese descent following this 1931 military campaign. This campaign was justified by the false flag Mukden incident.
Oh, it's the invasion of Manchuria, right?
Invasion of Manchuria is correct. Conversely, migration of people from Japan and China was encouraged as part of one Latin American country's campaign against people of this ethnicity. Tens of thousands of these people were killed in the 1930s. Indiana. 20 on the bonus, here's toss-up 3. Secretion of this substance is intentionally induced by domperidone, but is a common side effect of taking antipsychotics like risperidone. Oligosaccharides named for this substance encourage the colonization of the gut microbiome by bifidobacteria. This substance is produced by alveolar cells found in lobules. IgA is concentrated in a yellowish...
Like milk?
That's it for 20.
Good job.
Your bonus. The Laplace-Runge lens vector is conserved for motion along these paths. For 10 points each, name these paths described by Kepler's laws, which planets trace out around the sun.
Orbits.
Orbits is correct. For Keplerian orbits, the LRL vector is proportional to a vector form of this dimensionless non-negative quantity. This quantity is less than 1 for bound orbits and is greater than or equal to 1 for escape orbits.
I believe eccentricity.
That's it. Description acceptable. The conservation of the LRL vector results from this property of ideal Keplerian orbits, deviations from which lead to apsidal precession. Bertrand's theorem characterizes the bound orbits of simple harmonic oscillators in systems with this property.
I got no clue. Go.
Damped.
Let me 1 second. No, this is the inverse square central force.
What? Okay.
20 on the bonus, here's toss-up 4. The world's first live-stream benefit concert was organized for this ethnic group by Milarepa. A 2020 book by Barbara Demick traces a spat of self-immolations amongst these people to protest restrictions on practicing their religion. Michael Eisner pledged to undo the damage from a Martin Scorsese film about a leader of these people titled Kundun, an NGO to...
Tibetans?
Tibetans is it for 20. And here's your bonus. Answering about authors who depicted journeys to the moon for 10 points each. This French author included From the Earth to the Moon in a series of extraordinary voyages, which also included his novel, Journey to the Center of the Earth. Verne is correct. The title Shoes cause a watchman to accidentally be transported to the moon in this author's story, The Goloshes of Fortune. His other stories about footwear include The Red Shoes. Anderson is correct. This Greek language author of the 2nd century CE depicted several travelers being taken to the moon and thereafter being swallowed by a massive whale in a satire, A True Story. Need an answer?
Kavafi.
It is Lucian of Samosata. 20 on the bonus, here's toss-up 5. A cosmography originally written in this language contains an illustration of a globe studded with emerald mountains, which are supported by a gigantic bull, which itself stands on an even larger fish. In a doubtful story, a laudatory phrase in this language, literally meaning exalted cranes, was applied to 3 traditional goddesses after a reformer was tricked by the devil. In a story from this language, a fisherman runs into trouble after his net brings in a bottle whose... Arabic is correct for 10. Here's your bonus. This type of coal produced less smoke than softer bituminous alternatives, making it more suitable for indoor use. For 10 points each, name this type of hard coal widely supplied from northeastern Pennsylvania mines in the 19th century. Anthracite is correct. In an 1864 essay, this author argued that coal-fired stoves hurt family unity compared to gathering around an open hearth. Abe Lincoln supposedly called this author of Uncle Tom's Cabin the little woman who made this great war. Stowe is correct. A coal company of this name used a mule train to haul anthracite coal from Pigsgum Mountain to Philadelphia. Iron production was an important industry in a valley of this name, whose most populous city is Allentown.
Monongahela.
No, it's Lehigh. 20 on the bonus. Here's toss-up 6. This painting was the centerpiece of 9 artworks sold in 1985 by the Yakuza from the Marmaton collection, which was founded by the son of this painting's artist, Michel. Emile Cardon claimed he could create this painting by dirtying 3/4 of a canvas with black and white, then dotting with red and blue blobs at random. During an 1874 exhibition held at Nadar's workshop, this painting was mocked as being less finished than wallpaper in its embryo.
Like Impression Sunrise?
That's it for 20. Impression Sunrise. Your bonus. Description acceptable. This woman was the first to accept 8 conditions in order to achieve ordination, including to never abuse, revile, or admonish her male counterparts. For 10 points each, name a sister of Maya, who was the first bhikkhuni.
Sister of who? Maya? Sister of Maya first. I don't even know what religion is. I don't know. Just
Need an answer?
Parvati.
No, this is Gautami, or the Buddha's aunt.
Okay.
The Buddha was convinced to ordain women thanks to his belief that they could attain this state of release from the cycle of rebirth. Nirvana is correct. A collection of poems written by nuns was preserved in a canon written in this sacred language of Theravada Buddhism. Pali's correct. 20 on the bonus. Here's toss-up 7. Theodore Beza wrote a letter to Heinrich Bullinger arguing that this event was evidence of a universal conspiracy. During this event, the son of Louise de Montmorency and leader of the party of the pastors was killed. Poet Philip Sidney took shelter with Ambassador Francis Walsingham during this event. This event shattered the peace of Saint-Germain-en-Laye.
St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre.
That's it for 20. The St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre for Devin. Your bonus. Eldridge Cleaver admired this character for having no trace of the Martin Luther King type self-effacing love for his oppressors. For 10 points each, name his character, who's attacked for being designed to shock the whites out of their apathy in a James Baldwin essay. This character is represented by the communist lawyer Boris Max. Bigger Thomas is correct. Bigger Thomas kills Mary Dalton and Bessie Mears in this 1940 novel by Richard Wright. Native Son is correct. This other author stated, Bigger Thomas is afraid, terribly afraid. But afraid of what? Of himself. This thinker analyzed Mayotte Capicia's novel, I Am a Martinician Woman, in a book whose first chapter is titled The Negro in Language.
Codes.
No, this is France Fanon. 20 on the bonus, and here's toss of 8. Hosts of one ritual dedicated to this person read a text beginning, nice seeing your honest, chubby face, before serving a dish jokingly attributed to an animal with unequally long legs. This failed farmer abandoned a plan to emigrate to Jamaica after the success of the Kilmarnock volume. People crossed their arms while singing the last verse of a song on January 25th suppers named for this person.
Robert Burns?
Robert Burns is correct for 10. Your bonus. James Tobin proposed a tax on these values to discourage short-term speculation. For 10 points each, name these values used to convert between international currencies. Many countries peg these values to the US dollar.
Exchange rate?
That's it, exchange rates. A system developed at this international conference encouraged countries to peg their exchange rates to the price of gold. The IMF was created following this monetary conference. Well, kind of close, but it's relative. 20 on the bonus, here's toss-up 9. Cyanuric acid reacts with this element to form troclosine, which slowly bleeds it into solution. Radicals of this element are considered reactive, but not selective because they mainly substitute a primary alkyl hydrogens. Sodium hydroxide is made by electrolysis in an industrial process named
Chlorine.
Chlorine is correct for 20.
Good job.
Prize problem asks whether there always exists a smooth solution to these equations in 3D. For 10 points each, name this doubly eponymous set of partial differential equations whose description of the motion of viscous fluids is fundamental to fluid mechanics.
Navier-Stokes.
Navier-Stokes is correct. This condition is modeled as a Dirichlet boundary condition in the Navier-Stokes equations. Under this condition, a fluid has zero relative velocity along its boundary.
What? Yeah, sure.
Laminar flow.
Under the no-slip condition. This phenomenon can be accurately described at the boundary of a fluid flow by the K-omega model. This phenomenon arises in a fluid flow when inertial forces dominate viscous forces. Need an answer?
Turbulence.
Turbulence is correct for 20. Here's toss-up 10, after which we'll do halftime. This author wrote about the Organization for Modern Theft and Robbery in a novel written on prison toilet paper with a...
Soyanka?
No, -5. I mean, not -5. No problem. With a younger collaborator, this author of Devil on the Cross wrote a play in which one character loses a deed to a small plot of land to finance his wedding. That play's performance led to this author's imprisonment in 1977. In a novel by this author, General R wrongly thinks that the killer of District Officer Robson was sold out by Karanja. This author of I Will Marry When I Want wrote an... Ungugi's correct for 10. Here's your bonus. The mathematician... who destroyed the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and ordered all the dogs in Egypt to be slaughtered. This mad caliph is venerated in the Druze religion. Al-Hakim is correct. To escape Al-Hakim's wrath, Al-Haytham feigned madness after his plan to build one of these structures went awry. Al-Haytham's project would have been located at Aswan, where one of these structures was built in the 1960s. Damn is correct. Al-Haytham's treatise, Kitab al-Manazir, is a major medieval text in this scientific discipline. Isaac Newton's book, titled for this discipline, presents a corpuscular theory of its central phenomenon.
Optics. Yeah.
Optics is correct. 30 on the bonus, and half.
Okay, we're done for
I have a score of 210 for Thomas Jefferson A, 170 for Barrington A.
Good buzz. Good buzz.
What am I doing?
Okay.
Here is toss-up 11. In a piece with this nickname, the right hand crosses over to play the ascending notes C, F, G, A flat, then crosses back over to play the same notes 2 octaves up. The finale of a piece with this nickname uses the composite theme descending F sharp, E, D, C sharp, short B, up to C sharp, played between the 2 violin sections. The cellos play a rising F sharp, G, triplet A, G, A, to open the second movement of a symphony with this nickname. A piece with this nickname, dedicated to Karl von Lichnowsky, opens with a slow theme marked Grave. The second movement of a symphony with this nickname is a 5/4 Allegro con grazia, commonly called a limping waltz. For 10. Pathétique is correct. For 10. Your bonus. A blunted knife blade is run through the teeth of old tools in these islands' genre of ripsaw music. For 10 points each. Name these islands off whose coast John Glenn crash-landed in Friendship 7. This British overseas territory north of Hispaniola comprises the Lucayan archipelago of the Bahamas. No, these are Turks and Caicos. The Turks in Turks and Caicos comes from a native cactus species whose cephalium resembles these hats. A Moroccan city names these red cylindrical hats with a black tassel. Fez is correct. Salt Cay and Grand Turk are prime spots to watch these marine animals as they undertake the longest annual migration on Earth. These animals, which create elaborate songs in breeding season, are named for their curve while diving or small dorsal fins.
I think it's dolphin because they have.
Dolphins.
Oh no, these are the humpbacked whales. Humpback whales. 10 on the bonus, here's toss-up 12. The SMPTE RP 187 standard gives these things absurdly specific dimension ratios like 1035 to 1132. These things correspond to p-doped MOS capacitors and charge-coupled devices. External servers glean information from internet users when their web browsers load invisible tracking instances of these things. Adding transparency to these things can eliminate...
Software?
No.
That was the stupidest neg of all time.
I'll keep reading. Adding transparency to these things can eliminate jaggies as an anti-aliasing measure for the products of rasterization, which typically consists of these things. An art style name for these things often requires artists to hand dither to achieve an illusion of larger color palettes. Camera resolutions are often listed in units of mega these things. For 10 points, name these squares that comprise digital images.
Pixels.
Pixels is correct for 10. Your bonus. And line about the collaborative poetic form of Renga for 10 points each. The opening parts of Renga developed into this other Japanese poetic form whose 3 lines consist of 5, 7, and 5 moire respectively. Haiku is correct. The opening parts of Renga were required to incorporate a type of word called a kigo that represented one of these things. Kawazu, or frog, is a word representing one of these things in a basho haiku.
Sound.
Oh, no, it's a season. A verse form that combined features of the tanka and renga called tanrenga was popular during this period, whose flowering literary output included the Tale of Genji. Heian is it, for 20 on the bonus. Here's toss-up 13. This thinker infamously argued that the last murderer in prison should be still executed, even if society was about to collapse. Ray Langton and Barbara Herman have interpreted this thinker's claim that sex involves improperly treating a person as a thing. This thinker's examples of perfect and imperfect duties to oneself and others are often illustrated in a 4-square grid. This thinker used the formulas of humanity and autonomy to present a principle he illustrated with the kingdom of ends. This thinker's deontology centers on the idea that we should act according to maxims we would will to be universal law. Kant is it for 10. Your bonus. This condition caused a composer to get a long-haired dog the same color as his own hair to appease the women who would collect his cigarette butts for 10 points each. In this condition, Heinrich Heine defined as veritable insanity towards a Hungarian composer during an 1844 tour.
Listomania.
Listomania is correct. In 1838, a young Clara Wieck described how Liszt broke 3 brass strings while performing this composer's Concertstück in F minor. This German composer's other pieces include the first concert waltz, his Invitation to the Dance.
Oh, it's a Weber. Yeah, Weber.
Weber's it, yeah. After his tumultuous tour, Liszt composed his Liebesträume, whose third song is one of these pieces in A-flat major. These pieces are inspired by the night.
Oh, it's a nocturne.
That's inspired by the night. 30 on the bonus. Intersauce of 14. In 1961, this former host of the TV program Prospects of Mankind bragged to Murray Kempton of unseating Tammany Hall boss Carmine DeSapio. At secret clubs named for this person, black domestic workers were rumored to be planning to overthrow Jim Crow. This delegate received the only unanimous standing ovation to the UN following the adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human
Eleanor Roosevelt.
Eleanor Roosevelt is correct for 20. Your bonus. Richard Swinburne addressed paradoxes about this property by saying it extends to logical impossibilities. For 10 points each, name is property of being all-powerful, which God is said to possess along with omniscience and omnipresence.
Omnipotent.
Omnipotence is correct. The standard omnipotence paradox is the paradox of the stone, which asks whether God can create a stone with a specific property.
Immovable.
I will prompt.
Bigger than God.
No, it's too heavy for God to lift. This thinker argued that God cannot bring about predicates incompatible with their subjects, such as a man being a donkey. The argument from motion is one of this thinker's 5 ways. Need an answer? No, it's Thomas Aquinas. 10 on the bonus, here's toss-up 15. Spa magazine featured a cover story on girls inspired by this action who worship a god of the lower classes. An apology for an aggressive donation campaign that may have led to this action was given by Chung Hwan Kwok. After this action, a political party severed all ties with CARP and other fronts for a group known for its blessing ceremonies. 3 months...
The assassination of Shinzo Abe?
The assassination of Shinzo Abe is correct for 20. Your bonus. R's LM function is used to perform this task via the ordinary least squares method for 10 points each. Name is task of fitting a statistical model that describes a response variable as a linear combination of explanatory variables and an intercept.
Regression.
Regression's it. Checking the fit of a regression model involves examining these values for wall tests. To reject a null hypothesis, this quantity must be below the significance level denoted alpha.
Yeah, I think so. P-value.
P-value is correct. This phenomenon can be checked for by plotting a scatterplot matrix of the explanatory variables and calculating variance inflation factors. This violation of the assumptions of linear regression arises when explanatory variables are correlated.
Is it the Volga thing? Volga spikes? No, okay, try it.
The answer?
Overfitting.
No, it's collinearity.
Okay.
That's 20 on the bonus. Here's toss-up 16. Adolf Hitler banned a play titled for this character following the execution of Maurice Bavo. A history by Egidius Tschudi inspired a play that opens with this character ferrying a fugitive across a lake during a storm. The Baron of Ottinghausen disapproves of a guardsman arresting this character near a new prison. This character refuses to salute the cap of a governor.
William Tell?
William Tell is it for 10. Your bonus. Answering about Lord Northcliffe, Britain's press baron during World War II, for 10 points each. Oh, World War I, sorry. During World War I, for 10 points each. There's a difference. Northcliffe's Daily Mail popularized this derogatory term to refer to the Germans. Northcliffe cited a 1900 speech from Kaiser Wilhelm II comparing German to Attila, a leader of these people. Huns is correct. The Daily Mail also popularized this marching song after a correspondent heard the Connaught Rangers singing it. The song's chorus declares, "Goodbye Piccadilly, farewell Leicester Square."
It's a long way to Tipperary. It's a long, long way to Tipperary.
That's it. It's a long way to Tipperary, or it's a long, long way to Tipperary. In 1915, Northcliffe blamed this man for not providing enough shells for British troops. A 1914 recruitment poster depicts his field marshal and Second Boer War hero pointing at the viewer.
Kitchener.
Kitchener is correct for 30. Timeout call.
Let's go.
Are you ready to continue?
Yeah.
Score is 330, Thomas Jefferson A, 250, Barrington A. Going into toss-up 17. In a track by this musician, a clavinet plays a 2-bar bass line alternating in Dorian between B-flat 7 and E-flat 7 arpeggios. This musician made an album whose cover features its titled band sitting behind this musician, who is wearing an Ivorian play-play mask. Dolphin Dance is the last track on this musician's album, Maiden Voyage. Percussionist Bill Summers imitated a Hinduhu on a song by this musician by blowing into a beer bottle.
Hancock?
Herbie Hancock is correct for 10.
Yes, I was gonna say that.
Your bonus. The mRNA in COVID-19 vaccines is identical to the viral spike protein's mRNA, minus a few minor differences, for 10 points each. To limit immunogenicity, Pfizer and Moderna replaced every instance of this pyrimidine, the only nucleotide unique to RNA, with its pseudo-derivative. Uracil is correct. To permit translation, the vaccine's mRNA is modified with a 5' cap and, at the 3' end, with this RNA sequence comprising 30-ish copies of a single nucleotide. Poly-A tail is correct. 2 codons for this amino acid were added to stabilize the translated vaccine spike protein in its perfusion configuration. This amino acid makes proteins rigid because its side chain bridges the alpha carbon in the amino nitrogen.
Probably cysteine. Okay, sure. Cysteine.
Oh no, it is proline. 20 on the bonus, here's toss-up 18. These mopping and mowing characters are seen as Eads that offer art and sensual pleasure to women writers in The Mad Woman in the Attic. These characters accost a woman who stood like a lily in a flood and would not open lip from lip before tossing her a coin. After giving the gold upon her head to these characters, a woman stops.
The goblins?
Goblins is correct for 20. Here's your bonus. Andrea della Robbia sculpted swaddled babies against a blue background in examples of these artworks at the Ospedale degli Innocenti for 10 points each. These artworks, like Fra Angelico's Adoration of the Magi, which are typically small circular paintings or reliefs.
Rondos?
I will prompt.
No answer.
They are tondos. Tondi derived from painted Florentine birth trays in this non-circular shape. A drum of the shape connected by chains allowed Brunelleschi's dome for the Florence Cathedral to not require buttresses.
I think it's octagon. Octagon.
Octagon is correct. This artist made a tondi of the Madonna holding a pomegranate, include one of her writing the Magnificat. A love goddess arises from a seashell in this artist, the Birth of Venus.
Botticelli.
Botticelli's correct for 20. Here's toss-up 19. High-ranking priests in this culture wore textiles decorated with an 8-pointed star motif and made weather forecasts based on the abundance of spondylus shells on the coast. Centuries before the modern synthesis of titanium dioxide, this culture used it to decorate wooden cups called kiro. This culture used irregularly shaped rocks like the 12-angled stone to build mortarless.
Inca.
The Inca are correct for 20.
Nice.
Your bonus. Amplifying about Francis Barber, a Jamaican servant to Samuel Johnson, became the chief beneficiary of his will for 10 points each. Barber began living with Johnson as the author finished one of these works for the English language that humorously defines a lexicographer as a harmless drudge, among other definitions.
Dictionary.
A dictionary is correct. Tobias Smollett helped release Barber from this organization. C.S. Forrester's character Horatio Hornblower serves in this organization.
British Navy.
I have no idea. That's true.
British Navy.
That's it, the British Navy. Johnson refused to assign demeaning tasks to Barber, such as sending him to the market to buy this food for Johnson's spoiled cat, Hodge. These food items form a line and follow the title characters of the walrus and the carpenter before being eaten.
These food items.
Yeah, I totally know that.
Maybe it's like muffins. I don't know.
Yeah, go.
Muffins.
These are oysters.
Oh.
20 in the bonus, here's toss-up 20, the last. This quantity and big G are set equal to 1 in geometrized units. One-way measurements of this quantity are assumed to agree with two-way ones according to a common...
Speed of light.
Yeah, speed of light is in for 20.
Goodbye.
Great buzz. Your bonus. At the Compitalia festival, celebrated right after Saturnalia, pigs and honey cakes were dedicated to some of these deities guarding Rome. For 10 points each, name these local guardian deities, including the Augusti and the Familiares. These gods were represented by small dancing male figures and are often paired with the Penates.
It's like house gods, but I don't know what they're called.
Sure.
House gods?
I will prompt.
I don't know.
Time. These are Lares.
Lares.
The Lares were guardians of this place, which for Romans might include an Ilpuvium and a Triclinium. Brownies and Domovoi are also guardians of this type of place.
House? Like a house or a room?
Okay. Oh yeah.
Room?
Prompt?
House?
Yes. House is correct. This Roman goddess of the hearth and home corresponded to the Greek Hestia. The namesake versions dedicated to this goddess had to keep a flame constantly burning.
Vesta.
Vesta is correct for 20 on the bonus, and that's game.
Wait, who said that?
Oh yeah.
Who?